I am so delighted that you are all here for this very crucial information. As Don referenced, our call as members of Christ's body, and particularly as Passionists, is to treat suffering and grieving people with compassion and understanding, and to companion them through the tomb to the resurrection. How do you do that more effectively? Well, that's why we're here. This is a little bit of a countercultural topic. Well, actually, a lot of a countercultural topic because we live in a society that denies death, pain, suffering, disability, illness. I mean, even we can't even say the words dead or dying or death in context. I mean, we say, oh, she's drop dead gorgeous and I'm dying to see you, and that boy will be the death of me. But a person never dies. Even in Christianity, where death is the central core of our faith, people don't die, we pass away. We're down for the long count. We're pushing up daisies. They're our dearly departed. They've gone home, gone to their reward, gone to their rest, hopefully resting in peace. I mean, we can't even say the words. Now, in Catholicism, when death does occur, we have these wonderful, wonderful rituals in the order of Christian funerals. Each one of the prayers, the rites, taken together, they're an amazing way to prayerfully accompany people through those first few days. But then what? Too often, we finish the rites. What we end up doing is walking people to the grave, to the tomb, and leaving them there. Or even if we are there beyond that, we can say or do all the wrong things. Since we live in the society we do and we never talk about grief, people are never taught how to heal. People are never taught how to support people who are grieving. What we end up doing is picking up what everybody else does and perpetuating the mistakes. So this evening, I'm going to share with you my own, I've got a pretty extensive experience with loss, but also stories from over 2,500 grieving people that I've worked with, lessons from my master's degree, and I'm a fellow in thanatology, which is the highest level of certification in this field. And I teach all over the country. I'm going to give you some of those lessons to help you learn better ways to companion people, to raise the bar, to truly bring comfort in the darkest times of people's lives, so that in the spirit of St. Paul of the Cross, we can walk not just to the tomb, but all the way to the resurrection. Now, I am aware that as I talk about these things, I may raise some emotions in you because we've all had our own losses. We've all had our own griefs. I hope you can allow those emotions. That's okay. Emotions are amoral. There's no morality, no good or bad to the emotions themselves. What we do with them can be good or bad, but the emotions themselves are not. In fact, they're important because they are indicators of what's going on inside, what it is that is unhealed in us that we need to pay attention to. So don't stuff those emotions down as we go through this. Don't do what our society does. Say, oh, I just have to be strong. I just have to be strong. What does that mean? It means we can't show our emotions. We can't cry. We have misdefined the word strong, at least in this context, because the truth is it takes a ton of energy to stuff grief down. Ton of energy. It takes real strength to let it come up. It takes real strength to face the pain, the loneliness, the void that can never be filled in the same way again. It takes real strength to let those tears come out, especially in this society, and especially if you're a man. It is not the strong people who don't cry. It's the strong people who do. So when you're walking with anybody, accompanying anybody, going through a tough time, when they start to cry and they apologize for it, oh my gosh, no, you're being so strong. When you're willing to face those tough emotions, when you're willing to look at this, to assimilate this loss into your life, to accommodate your life to it, That takes real strength. You never need to apologize for your tears. In fact, remember, Jesus wept. And we're not just talking about one tear rolling down his cheek. He wept, and he wept in front of all kinds of people. What was their response? Was their response, oh, look at how weak he is? No, their response was, look at how much he loved him. I often tell people, you wouldn't cry if you didn't love him. If you lose a trinket, big deal. You've lost a treasure. Of course you're sad. You never need to apologize for that. In fact, sometimes I say, I hope somebody cries for me when I die. I hope somebody loved me that much, that I made that much of a difference to somebody. You honor the person who died. You honor whatever it is that you've lost when you cry. The final interesting thing about tears is that God created us to cry when we're sad. It's God's stress relief mechanism. There's actually physiological chemicals in tears that relieve stress. I brought along an anatomically correct model of one of those chemicals. This is leucine and enkephalin. It's one of the chemicals in tears that relieve stress, along with the adrenocorticotropic hormones, throw in a little prolactin for good measure. These are the things you get rid of when you cry. But you can't cheat. If you're cutting up a big old onion, no chemicals. They're only in tears of emotion. So again, when someone you are with is crying, tell them how strong they are. Tell them it's a sign of their love, and tell them they're cooperating with God to reduce their stress. These emotions are good things. Sometimes people who accompany those who are grieving or suffering or dying ask if it's okay if they cry too. Well, yes. It is so much more comforting for somebody to have someone to know that somebody else misses that too, misses their person or misses whatever they had that they lost, or just that their story is affecting you that deeply. It is so much more comforting than somebody saying, oh, there, dear, cheer up. It'll be all right, really. Dry your tears, use this. No, go ahead and cry with people. Just don't cry more than them. I mean, that can get a little weird. So let's go on with a little bit of grief education, because grief, as you may have picked up already, it's far more pervasive than just from a death. In fact, grief is triggered whenever there is a break in an attachment. Whenever we have to leave behind something we like about our life, we're familiar with it, we're attached to it, and we have to let go of it and go forward and learn how to live without it, that triggers grief. So in my field of thanatology, I'm a thanatologist. That means I'm an expert in death, aging, loss, grief, and transition. There are 6 accepted types of loss or change that trigger grief. Any particular experience may involve more than one of these triggers, and it often does. And in fact, it is the number of triggers involved combined with the depth of the attachment that determines how long and profound and complex that grief is going to be. Some griefs are relatively minor, easy to negotiate. Others are absolutely life-altering. So these are the 6. We're going to go through these with just a few examples. A, so that you understand grief and how often you're talking to a grieving person. And B, so that you can name it for them. You see, when we have a name for something, it gives us a sense of agency or control. If something is medically wrong with you, when you finally get the diagnosis, even if it's not a diagnosis you want, you know what it is. Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not inventing it. There really is something wrong with me. And now that I know what it is, what are we going to do? What's our treatment plan? What's the prognosis? It gives us a sense of agency or control, even in a situation where so many things are out of our control. So you can name people's grief for them. Well, of course, this is difficult. Of course, it's emotional. Look at everything you've lost. You've lost this and this and this. You're not crazy. You're just grieving. These are normal reactions for grieving people, and most people don't get that. I get that. I'm here for you. I get it. It's really a powerful way to accompany them. So let's look at the first one. Well, relationship loss is what everybody thinks of in terms of death, the total permanent loss of the physical relationship with that person. But it doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be total. Divorce is also a relationship loss, and on many different levels. Moving away, I mean, how many of you have moved away from the place where you were born? Now, when you move, look at all the relationships you're leaving behind. Your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, your classmates, the people at your church. A lot of relationship loss involved in moving. If your family has an estranged family member, that hurts. Or, all over the country, people tell me they're losing friends, they're losing family over politics. That just because we vote for somebody different, we can't even associate with each other. And you know what? Relationship loss doesn't even have to be human. How many of you are willing to admit that your pet is your child? Right? And when that pet dies, it's absolutely devastating, as much or more so than any family member could be. Don't ever, ever say to somebody, what's the matter with you? It was only a cat. It was only a horse. It was only a bird. No, that is a very significant relationship loss, and it needs to be acknowledged. Material loss is the loss of an object or a possession that we're attached to or that has sentimental value. And again, it can be total or partial. I mean, somebody's whole home could burn down in a wildfire, or a tree could fall on it in a windstorm, or they could total their favorite car. When people move from their home, voluntarily or involuntarily, mom can't live by herself anymore. When people leave their home, maybe the home where they raised their kids, but anytime they're leaving a home where the memories sing from the walls, that's a huge material loss. This happens whenever a treasured possession is lost or broken or stolen. If my house was robbed about 20 years ago, I didn't care that they took the CDs. Yes, I had CDs 20 years ago, but I could replace those. They took the pendant my husband gave me on our honeymoon, and he died when he was 25 and our son was 7 months old. I could never replace that. It's the things that we're attached to that have sentimental value. That's what we grieve. Oh, by the way, we're very attached to our money. That's why inflation is really hard, because we feel like somebody's taking away our treasured possession in ways that are out of our control. It's a grief. Your role is your accustomed place in any of the social constructs of your life. And when our role changes, we grieve. It can be as simple as becoming an empty nester. You can never be a parent in the same way again when that kid moves out. Even if you couldn't wait to get that kid out the door, there's just something different about life when they're not there. Of course, many parents negotiate their way through that grief. They get accustomed to it, and then the kid moves back in. You kind of do it all over again. But bigger role changes. What happens when a natural caregiver has to become a care receiver? When the adult child has to change the parent's diaper? They both grieve for that change in role. Or somebody gets laid off. It's not just the material. Again, multiple triggers. It's not just the material, the money they lose their role as the family provider. And if someone dies, it's not just the relationship you lose, it's your role in association with them. I'm single, maybe a single parent, or my child dies. Am I still a parent? What do I answer when people ask how many kids I have? Or my parent dies, especially my last surviving parent, and then I'm the adult orphan, the next in line. Even positive transitions trigger grief because every transition is a both and. In every transition, positive and negative, there's things that we're grateful for or happy about or relieved for. And at the exact same time, there's things we long for, things we miss, things we grieve. So somebody retires. Everybody wants to throw a party, oh, happy, happy. And yet look at everything that person has to leave behind in order to retire. Their role, their status and prestige, and their reason for getting out of bed in the morning, and relationships, the people they associated with on a daily basis. Even positive changes like retirement also trigger grief. Functional loss is the loss of an ability to do something we used to be able to do or we want to be able to do. We think of it often with aging. There's a lot of functional losses that come with aging. Having to wear bifocals, needing assistance with walking, just not being able to hit the golf ball as far. It can also be temporary changes. If you've ever had your dominant arm in a cast for 6 or 8 weeks, oh my gosh, I can't even get myself dressed. What is the matter with this? We grieve that functional loss. Or somebody who's going through chemo. Oh, we grieve that functional loss. Now, hopefully, after those incidents are over, we get the function back. What if we don't? ALS, Parkinson's, dementia, where we lose function inch by inch by inch, and we grieve every inch of the way. If you've ever had to take away your mom's car keys, oh, huge functional loss, the ability to drive, with many other losses associated with it. Role change, relationship change in their friendship circle, material. They have to get rid of the car. Lots of things in functional loss. Intrapsychic loss is the loss of plans, dreams, visions for life, for the future. Infertility, the loss of the dream of having your own biological child, or miscarriage or stillbirth, the loss of the dreams for this child. Somebody starts a business and it goes great for years, and then it fails. The congregation diminishes, and you have to let go of old visions for what the future was going to look like. And again, it's a both and, things you're grateful for, relieved about, happy about, and yet you mourn what you've lost. Parenting a child with disabilities, and every time other people's children accomplish something, your child never will. Or again, when there's a death, multiple triggers. It's not just the relationship. It's not just your role in association with them. It's the dreams, the future that you had planned with that person in your life. And sometimes, in my experience facilitating support groups, working with so many people, the loss of the future is just as significant as the loss of the physical relationship itself. This last one has 2 parts to it. Systemic is the shattering of faith in the systems or institutions we rely on in our society, and assumptive loss is a shattering of our personal systems, the often unconscious matrix of assumptions we put together about how life works or how it's supposed to work. On the systemic side, how many of you believe that everybody we elect and send to Washington, their number one goal is the common good of the American people? Folks, we've lost faith in our government. And don't we grieve for that? When there's a trial of any sort, people can lose faith in the justice system because, face it, justice is not always served. When there's an illness or a death, people can lose faith in the healthcare system or the health insurance system. We experience in our Catholic Church the loss of faith in our church, especially because of the sexual abuse crisis. And oh, don't we grieve for that? On the personal side, we tend to put together assumptions that say somehow life is fair, somehow it makes sense, or at least it's supposed to. And we find ourselves saying, this isn't fair. This isn't right. It isn't supposed to happen this way. I mean, young people don't die, right? Oh, nobody's going to break into my house and take my stuff. That's just not the thing to do. Nobody does that. I've had people in the widowed group. A woman came in recently. She said he was the healthy one. I was the sick one. I was supposed to die first. I'm not supposed to be here. Or, oh, wait a minute. We're people of faith. We do all the right things. We obey, we tithe, we send our kids to Catholic schools. We're supposed to be rewarded. What is going on here? You see, anytime our public or personal assumptions get shattered, we grieve. So, do you see how often these triggers are happening all the time? You're talking to a grieving person way more than you realize. In fact, all of us are grieving way more than we realize. And much of what we've lost, we're very attached to. So you know what? You're not crazy. You're just grieving. These are normal reactions for grieving people. Of course, it's difficult. And that's why we're here for each other, to walk each other through it. Now, before we go on, if you are willing to be a little bit crazy with me for 10 seconds, let's do just 10 seconds of self-care. You know a lot of self-care techniques, breathing and prayer and meditation and all kinds of things that you use to take care of yourself. Let me give you one that most people don't know about, but it's a lot of fun. If you're willing to do this, if you would just put both feet on the floor, and then to the extent that you can, given joints or whatever issues you may have, when I say go, stomp your feet as hard and fast as you can for 10 seconds. You ready? Go. Come on. Oh, I can't hear you. Nothing's on, but go ahead. Go, go, go. Come on. You're almost there. You're almost there. 3, 2, 1. Stop. How many of you are smiling right now? You see, what just happened is we've been dealing with some difficult emotional things, and you've been storing it in your muscles and your bones and your joints, and we just stomp some of it out. And doesn't that feel good? So when you've had a difficult conversation, when you're stressed, when it's just really weighing down on you, stomp your feet. 10 seconds more if you want to. And it's even better if you do it with other people. Grab a significant other, grab a colleague, whatever, stomp your feet together. I can guarantee you'll feel a little bit lighter by the time it's over. So let's go on with tips on how to be there for people. This is the number one need that grieving, suffering people have, both in the initial instance and well down the road, is to tell their story. It's one of the ways we make it real, because when bad things happen, we walk around saying, this isn't real. This is a nightmare. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. This is all going to be gone. One of the ways we make it real is to hear the words coming out of our own mouths over and over and over again. But who is willing to listen? Can you? Can you listen in the initial instance? Can you listen 2 weeks after the funeral? Can you listen 8 months after the divorce? Can you listen at a year and a half? And the corollary to this, since they need to tell their story, they don't need you to tell them anything. They don't need you to tell them your reaction. They don't need you to tell them what they should do, should think, should feel. No, they need you to ask them good, open questions that invite their story. People get nervous about asking questions. You don't want to intrude, but you're not intruding. You invite. You open a door and you invite that person to walk through and talk to you. And then you follow their lead. You always follow their lead, because they can close the door if they want to. That's okay. In my experience, though, vast majority of the time, they're going to walk through that door and they're going to talk, because grieving people are so hungry to talk to anybody who's willing to listen to them. You have nothing to lose by asking a good, open, invitational question and following their lead. Okay, so let me first give you a question not to ask, a really bad question to ask that everybody asks. How are you? How are you? How are you doing? How are you holding up? Oh, come on. That's an impossible question. What do you mean, how am I? Because grief is up and down and back and forth and all over the place. It changes at first minute by minute or hour by hour. People don't know how they're doing. They can't even answer that. Besides, how are you is the standard greeting everybody uses all the time. And grieving people know full well that 99% of the people who ask don't really want to know. So they're not going to tell you. You know what they wish they could answer? You wouldn't believe the things I hear in support groups. What they wish they could answer. How are you? How do you think I am? Don't you know what happened to me? Now, they don't. People are very tolerant and patient with folks who just don't know any better. They're trying to do their best. But they're not going to be honest. You say, how are you? What are they going to answer? I'm fine. I'm fine. Really, I am. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. It doesn't do either one of you any good. So instead, try to make your questions more time limited. One thing I love to ask is, so what kind of a day is it for you today? Is this an up day or a down day or an all over the place day? Do you hear the difference? Number one, I didn't ask the standard question, so I might really want to know. And number two, they look at me and say, oh my gosh, you get it. You understand, you get that some days are up and some days are down and some days are all over the place. You understand, I think I can talk to you. If you saw them a week or two ago and now you're seeing them again, you can refer to the last time. Last time you said you felt like a strand of blown glass, and if somebody went poof, you were going to break. Is that still the case now? And it might be, because grief takes way longer than people think it does. Or what has changed? What do you see that's different from the last time we talked? You can ask, what is one thing that happened this past week that made you smile? And what's one thing that you're really struggling with? Ask open questions that are more time limited, so they really do. They know you want to know the answer, and they can give you one. A bad thing to say that everybody says. You get a phone call. I'm just calling to tell you that Dan died last night. What are the first words out of everybody's mouth? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry. You could do so much better. This one always catches people off guard. Don't say, I'm so sorry. I mean, that is what everybody says. In fact, that's what we are trained to say in our society. That's one reason why not to. Have you ever looked at anybody's Facebook or social media page after a family member dies? What's it say? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. By the time I see it, hear it, read it for the 357th time, it just doesn't mean very much anymore. Becomes ever more clear that it is the standard thing that everybody says. Now, some people say it with compassion, which is better than some other things you could say, but you could do better than that. Besides, you know what people want to say when they're, and I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. They want to say, yeah, I am too. Or, not half as sorry as I am. I talked to a man recently. He said, my mom died 3 months ago, and if one more person tells me how sorry they are, I think I'm going to spit. You can do better. How? By going back to your principle. Instead of telling them that you're sorry, which also makes them feel like they have to comfort you, you ask them a question. Ask them a few questions. Give them a choice of what they want to answer, but let them invite their story. You find out that their house burned down. Oh my gosh, how much warning did you have? Were you driving through flames to get out? Were you able to salvage anything? Do you think that story isn't going to come pouring out of their mouths? Or they get a diagnosis? Who was with you when you were told? What is your understanding of your prognosis going forward? Very important question when somebody's diagnosed. What is your understanding of your prognosis going forward? Or that phone call. I'm just calling to tell you Dan died last night. How did you find out? Who's with you now? What's happening today? Even if it's been a long illness, they've had Alzheimer's for 12 years. Well, what's it like for you now to know that this long journey is over? Or has that even sunk in yet? Are you feeling relief, sadness, everything all together? What's it like for you? And you know what? It doesn't have to be the initial instance. I was at a conference. I gave a talk at a conference, and in the hallway, a woman was talking to me about how my talk resonated with her because her mother died 3 years ago. And I just said, well, your mom, did she die suddenly or was it a long illness? Were you close to her? Do you know, no matter how long it's been, I have never yet had anybody who didn't start telling me about their mom. We need to tell the story, and for a very long time to come. Other questions that you can ask. One of my favorite questions, because this works for any of those triggers and it works initially or anytime down the road, you're going to want to write it down. What do you wish people knew about what you're going through, about what this is like for you? What do you wish people knew? They'll tell you what they wish you knew. What do you wish people knew about what it's like now to face the first anniversary of your child's death? What do you wish people knew about what it's like to hear ALS come out of your doctor's mouth? What do you wish people knew about what it's like to wake up and your partner of 47 years isn't there and you have to go down and make coffee for yourself? What do you wish people knew? A way you can tweak that, especially in tragic situations like a suicide or a child dying or anything, you say, I'm trying to imagine what this could be like for you, but I've never been in your shoes. How can you help me? What can you tell me that will help me better imagine what you're going through so I can support you better? Because that's what I want to do. Or if that's too personal, you can say, I bet you've had a ton of people tell you they can't imagine what you're going through. Well, if you could get into their imaginations, what would you tell them? You see, I used to teach, and a lot of people still teach, to say, I can't imagine what you're going through. And yeah, that's better than some other things you could say, like, I know how you feel, because no, you don't. You're always wrong. But I can't imagine. I've worked with too many people. It's isolating. You've got person after person saying, I can't imagine what you're going to, I can't imagine, I can't imagine what you're, don't you pretty soon feel like you're going crazy? Nobody can ever possibly imagine what you're going through, much less companion you through it. Nobody's ever felt this in the history of the world. Man, I am on my own. I got to get through this by the seat of my own pants. It pushes people away. Don't do that. Draw them in. I'm trying to imagine, or if you could get into their imaginations, what would you tell them? Another related question, how do you wish people would act around you right now? Do you wish people would talk about your illness, or do you just want to talk about the sports teams? Or you might get an answer like, I wish somebody would just say her name. It's only been 7 months. I want to know somebody besides me remembers. By the way, saying people's names, this is really, really important. And we tend to stop saying the names about a couple of weeks after the funeral. Grieving people long to hear the name. There's an old saying, I'm told it's an African tribal saying, I can't guarantee that, but it's in many different cultures, Hispanic culture, Native American, and Asian culture. The saying says, no one is ever truly dead from this earth until there's not a person left alive who speaks their name and tells their story. And isn't that true? No one is ever truly dead from this earth until there's not a person left alive who speaks their name or tells their story. Say the name, invite the story, tell the story yourself. Getting back to the question, how do you act around you? I've had so many people. I grew up in rural Iowa, surrounded by farming community. And in rural Iowa, and really all over the country now, I have people who tell me, I wish folks would quit bringing me food. You all do that, right? Let the caravan casserole commence. We all bring food. When my dad died 15 years ago, we had to rent an extra refrigerator because all these Iowa farm folk brought all this food. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and we couldn't eat it all. Let me ask you something. Who's bringing food on the 6-month anniversary? Or his birthday? Or hers? Or their wedding anniversary? These are days, I call them marker days, these days that they're painful for many years to come because we only get to practice them once a year. After John died, every day of my life, I woke up and reached across to the empty pillow, and pretty soon I stopped expecting somebody to be there. But it's only once a year that there's mistletoe hanging everywhere, and Elvis is singing I'll Have a Blue Christmas Without You. We only get to practice these things once a year, so they're painful for a long time to come. But what is everybody around a grieving person doing on those days? Absolutely nothing. Don't let that be you. Give a call. I'm just calling because I know it's Dan's birthday today. So what do you have planned? You're going to go to the cemetery? You're going to get together with family? Or are you just going to cocoon in bed all day? What's it like for you today on Dan's birthday? Priceless. Or I can't take away the pain of a day like today, but I hope you can at least enjoy a cup of your favorite coffee with the enclosed gift card. Or I know a man who loves to bake. His specialties are banana bread and chocolate chip cookies. And on those marker days, he bakes something for that person and hand delivers it. He just goes and knocks on the door and says, I thought a little comfort food might help you get through today. I won't interrupt your day. I'm not going to come in or anything. I just wanted you to have this. I baked it myself. Here you go. Actually, he said over 90% of the time he does get invited in and they end up talking. And do you think that's not healing? Do you think that's not supportive? Bring food, bring gifts, do things like that on those marker days instead of loading it all up in the initial instance when everybody else is. On the first anniversary, a single rose in memory of Helen. A little bottle of their favorite craft beer or wine, raising a glass together with you today in her memory. We will never forget her. And then going forward, keep those questions going. What is one thing that people told you that was comforting? And what is one thing you're just tired of hearing or it's downright hurtful? You'll get answers. Be there, companion people, ask those questions. When there's a death, if you can, do go to the services. There's no substitute for personal presence. And some of you who are listening, I know are ordained, you are presiding at these services. But whether you're presiding or attending, please leave behind the I'm so sorry's and you have my sympathy that everybody else is saying. Instead, what people take away from the services is the stories. It's the memories. When my dad died, I learned things about my dad that I never knew before. Things he'd done before I was born, people he mentored. I didn't know he was so important to those people. Those are the things that people walk away with. So bring a story, bring a memory. It's good to see you tonight, but I wish it was under better circumstances. But as I was thinking about Helen, one thing I'm going to remember about Helen for the rest of my life, and I'm going to carry in my heart, was that big infectious smile. Man, she knew how to make people happy. We saw it all the time. As she'd walk in a room, start smiling, pretty soon everybody in the room is smiling. There is never going to be another Helen. We're really going to miss that smile. Okay, now you've brought actual comfort. And then turn it back to them. Another very important question that you're going to want to remember. But tell me, what is something you hope people remember about Helen? Tell me something you loved about her. Now you've got a conversation going. You're talking about the stories, the memories. They get to talk. You get to talk. You ask more questions based on what they say. Do you see how much better that is than, oh, I'm so sorry? That's a conversation stopper. Ask those questions. And as you go forward beyond the services, don't put any time limits on the grief. Each individual grief is theirs, and the pace, there's so many factors that go into how we grieve. It is very individual. Provided we face it, do the hard work of grief, assimilate that loss into our life, accommodate our life to it, face those difficult emotions, resolve it, we will heal, provided we face it. And what at first brings tears later can bring smiles. But you never, ever put it behind you and get on with life now. There's no final point of closure. You don't take somebody you love, put them in a convenient box, mark past, leave them back there while you go on. That's not what healing looks like. You carry them with you for the rest of your life. You carry their life with you. You carry their love with you. The love never dies. You carry who you have become. I am a different person because John loved me. I've gone on, I healed, but nobody will ever take that away from me. Actually, I'd like to share an image with you that I find powerful, and so do many of the other people that I have worked with. This image comes from Gregory Floyd, whose 6-year-old son Johnny was killed in his front yard when a car jumped the curb and hit his kids while they were playing. Even in that initial deep, dark time of grief, Greg said that every once in a while he would realize he was smiling, or a laugh would escape his lips, and his first reaction was, how dare I? Johnny, he said, don't do that. Those moments of joy, those moments of laughter, those are what sustain us. We need those. In fact, the image he used is that those moments are the bright splashes of color on the gray palette of grief. The bright splashes of color on the gray palette of grief. Now, eventually, as you work at your grief, as you heal, that image reverses itself because the times of deep, dark sadness and crying, they become less frequent and less intense. First time you go to bed at night and realize you didn't cry all day. Oh, what a milestone. Then it gets to be a week or a month. And at the same time, the times of smiling and laughter, they're more frequent and more intense until eventually the times of sadness and crying become the gray splotches of color on the bright palette of life. That's what healing looks like. Now, notice the gray never entirely goes away. It's not supposed to, because if it did, it would mean we forget. And we don't forget. We carry them with us. And because we don't forget, we carry them with us for the rest of your life, you will occasionally get ambushed. You know, you walk into the store and that song is playing on the PA. And maybe you've heard it 50 times. It didn't do anything. But that day, depending on what day it was, how tired you were, what somebody said, it just grabbed you and you're sobbing in the aisle. Other times, it'll be things you know are coming up. The holidays with that empty chair again. Or a walk down the aisle without that person there. Or I got ambushed big time, more than 2 decades after John died. That little baby boy grew up, he got married, he walked down the aisle to marry the woman he loved, and his daddy wasn't there. And then my baby boy had a baby boy, and he named him John after his daddy who died. Oh my gosh, do you think I didn't cry? We carry them with us for the rest of our lives. Help people do that. We get in trouble too, just in terms of our faith. Please avoid telling anybody what they are supposed to believe about God or faith or afterlife. We do it to try to help them feel better, to try to help them keep perspective or help them rely on God. And usually what it does is simply minimize their grief and be hurtful. The truth is, the foundations of people's faith get knocked out from under them when tragedy hits, and they need to put it back together in a way that makes sense for them. They don't need you to tell them how to do that. When we tell people, oh, she's in a better place, you know what? Right then, I can't imagine a better place than right here beside me, thank you. And besides, even if I do believe she's in a better place, and I may be wondering about that right now because I'm not even sure where God is, even if I know she's in a better place, I'm not. She might be happy, I'm suffering. It's a both and. And don't explain God, oh, this is God's will, and we just have to accept it. Well, in a broad sense, death is God's will. I mean, go back to Genesis. We were created in paradise, right? We sinned, we got kicked out. How do we get back to paradise where we were intended to be from the beginning? We die. Death is not a bad thing from God's perspective. It's darn hard for the people left behind. So in general, death is God's will, but is this death at this time in this way, is this God's will? We don't know. An awful lot of things happen that are not God's will. You tell somebody at a drive-by shooting where their kid was sitting on the porch and got hit by a bullet. You tell them that's God's will? No. Or sin, corporate or individual, the chemicals we put into our environment, cancer rates are rising. Is that God's will? We don't know. We don't know the mind of God. So don't tell people what God's will is, because you will chase people away. Oh, there has to be a reason why God took your loved one. Who wants to believe in God? Well, C.S. Lewis had a wonderful image. He said, we paint the image of God as the cosmic sadist sitting at the divine keyboard punching the delete key. Well, let's see, who am I going to kill today? No, don't tell them what to believe. Instead, where is God in this for them? Accompany them. Ask questions. You can share of your own experience, but only in service to them, not to convince them, to support them, to give them something to think about, and then ask more with no judgment. Even anger at God is not a sign of unfaith. It's a sign of faith, because you can't be angry at God unless you believe there's a God to be angry at. They need to work out their faith journey being accompanied, not convinced. So do that. Accompany them. How can we know that they're going to get there, or that we're going to get there? Well, I will share a little bit about my experience. I know that when I'm going through something really, really tough, that's me, nailed to the cross. And as St. Paul of the Cross reminds us, our suffering does not go unnoticed by God, and it's not pointless. In fact, someone else is nailed there with me. And I know that if I walk through it with Jesus, hand in hand with Christ, then no matter how deep that tomb, no matter how black the night, no matter how awful the despair, somehow, some way, if I walk through it with Christ, God is going to bring resurrection on the other side. Even if I can't see it right now. I mean, when John died, I thought I would never be happy again as long as I lived. That died with John. I was wrong. Even when we can't believe it, we can't see it, we can't imagine how God could possibly bring something good out of this, that's okay. And when we're accompanying people, if you can be the voice, the hands, the love of Jesus, holding them in your heart while their heart heals, walking with them, helping them through it with Jesus, then what Elizabeth Johnson said will come to be. She said, the resurrection is the surest possible sign that God will always have the final word. And the final word will be life, not death. That's a message of hope, the kind of hope that sustains people. We proclaim and follow a Lord who suffers with the suffering, who grieves with the grieving, who dies with the dying, who knows our isolation and our pain. We proclaim a Lord who knows what it's like to be abandoned, to be betrayed, to face our pain alone. We proclaim a Lord who hangs on the cross with us, who cries with us, who loves us to the end and will never leave us. And we proclaim a Lord of resurrection, the Paschal mystery, life from death, victory from tragedy, hope from despair. That is at the heart of our Christianity and at the heart of the Passionist charism. And so, as we bring hope in this suffering world, there's so much more to know, but I hope that in this period of time here, you learned at least a few things that will help you accompany people, not just to the tomb, but all the way to the resurrection.